There are a lot of cases in the gaming world where a lot of big developers are either developing small games or just publishing them. These are small games like mobile or indie games that are not what most expect from those companies. On the PlayStation Vita, let's think of a few games that fall into that category. At first hand, I can only think of two at the moment, which are Rollers of the Realm and Dead Man's Cross. Rollers of the Realm was published by Atlas, who is used to sending out RPGs like Persona. And Dead Man's Cross was a mobile game developed by Square Enix, which was a casual card game, very different from their usual Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts games. Today's review is another example of this. NIS America has jumped on this bandwagon, if that's what you would even call it, with a game of their own making that plays very much like the mobile indie game Limbo. Here is our official review of the game The Firefly Diary. The story of this game revolves around a young girl named Mion who has lost all of her memories. You take on the role of two fireflies that she follows around, aiding her in her quest of self-discovery. As you go through the various facilities and environments, you will come across memory fragments that show little scenes and memories from Mion's past. The big thing to know about the story of the Firefly Diary is that it is not explained to you. All of the scenes play out when you look at them, but there is no dialogue, there are no voices. Everything just happens in front of you and you are free to interpret it as you will. There is an underlying story, but it's more interpreted as you play through the game. As we said earlier, Firefly Diary is a puzzle platformer game like the mobile indie game Limbo. As you go through the game, you will be guiding Mion around with the two fireflies, solving puzzles for everything from boss fights to crossing platforms to just walking to the other end of the stage. To solve puzzles, you will have to use the two different fireflies' different abilities. You have one firefly that Mion will follow around wherever you put it. If you drag it to the left of Mion, she will go after it, even if it means jumping into a spike pit. The other firefly, whom is called Umbra, has access to the Shadow World. When you activate Umbra's power, everything in time freezes, and you are free to follow shadows of everything in the stage, from buildings, poles, to Mion herself, and you need to find a straight line to an interactable object. The big key thing is that a lot of these objects don't have a clear path to them, so you have to position Mion or boxes or other objects so there is a clear shadow path for Umbra to follow in order to interact with the object, whether it's a rope to pull down a bridge or something else. What you need to know about these puzzles is that they're not very simple, and you'll be going through a constant cycle of trial and error as you play through the game. Every part of the game is a puzzle, be it walking around, going through a door, fighting bosses, the list goes on. The big key thing is there are a lot of close call situations, so very specific timing is required to solve these puzzles. Some of the bosses will be hard, that you'll need to go into the Shadow World at a very specific moment at the end of the attack to be able to find an interactable object to defeat the boss. Otherwise, you'll get hit and you'll get a game over. That is also another part of the difficulty because you cannot get hit at all. If you get hit by anything, be it an attack or a falling box, you'll immediately die and go back to the previous checkpoint. The good thing is that checkpoints come fairly often. You may not think they come often enough, but every couple minutes of puzzle solving, you'll get to a checkpoint where the game will automatically save, so if you die, you'll go back to that checkpoint. All in all, there are only 4 stages in the Firefly Diary, and you can probably beat the game in 2 hours if you get all of your timing right and know exactly what you're doing. Due to the trial and error method of the game and the high difficulty though, you should expect to spend at least 3 to 5 hours, if not more, just to get to the normal ending. After you do this, you can also go back to get all of the missing memory fragments to get the true ending. All in all though, for this type of game, it has a pretty good length to it. As far as the presentation concerned, everything is mostly good. First of all, the load times are only about 4 or 5 seconds each time you want to go to a stage, or respawn back at a checkpoint when you die, and there is no lag in the game. We did notice a little bit of slight slowdown once in the game, but not other than that. The big thing about the visual presentation is that the 2D visuals are done pretty well. However, in the background, when you see the shadow plane, you will see a lot of jagged edges on the shadows for objects, and especially Mion herself if you stop moving. They're not incredibly apparent, and they're not going to ruin your experience, but there are a lot of imperfections to be seen there. The Firefly Diary is the PlayStation Vita's newest exclusive game from NIS America. On the downside, the story is not explained very well, and the visuals do have a few imperfections in the shadow models. However, if you're looking for a puzzle platformer game like Limbo and are looking for a very high challenge, this is definitely something you should look into. PlayStation Vita Reviews rates the Firefly Diary an 8 out of 10.